All right. We are getting started in 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for September 16th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, we take a closer look at the PS5 Pro and are still struggling to see the upgrades. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Emma Fyffe, everybody. Emma, how are you doing?
I am well. I am very happy that the heat wave that we were experiencing in Los Angeles has ended. Knock on wood. My desk is not made out of wood. It is definitely particle board, so that's not going to help. But yeah, things are great. I'm in like the home stretch of wedding planning also. So
okay, all right. So
yeah,
a lot of things heating up over there.
There's a lot of things going on. Yes, it's so funny because, you know, in a lot of ways, putting together a wedding is not that different from like what I do for a job.
That's right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like, the thing is like, it's just as much effort, but it's not like on film.
Yeah. And you have to pay other people to do it.
Weird. Yeah, exactly. And it's my money. Like it's not some brand's money.
Yep.
So yeah, but I'm excited. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
I'm sure it's gonna be wonderful. Yeah. Really happy for y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it it's gonna be cooled off for the wedding? Not gonna be 115 degrees or whatever?
So I mean, obviously, like it's a few weeks away yet, so we just don't we, you know, how accurate is that prediction?
Right.
This is one of the good uses of AI, is that AI is actually pretty good at predicting the weather.
Right. That's
so,
they've been using models for forever. This is just a new model they can put on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks like probably we will have like low 80s the weekend of the wedding, which is totally fine because by the time the ceremony and stuff is happening, it'll all already be starting to cool off. Yeah. Cool. So yeah. And for everybody asking, no, my t-shirt is actually it's a shirt. It is not part of like a matching set pajamas. This is a
that'd be a very good look though. Yeah.
This is a shirt I wear in real life as an adult woman in my 30s in the world. So
it's for audio listeners, there's a lot of the Koopa kids. There's Bowser Jr.
Yeah.
It's very good. I like the shirt. Yeah. And it's blue and it does have like a pajama-like qualities to it.
It does have a pajama-like quality to it. This is a shirt that I actually wore to the opening night party of Super Nintendo World.
Oh, perfect. Yes. So, ideal. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's going good over here. Lots of games coming out, kind of keeping me very busy. Although this weekend I spent most of it trying to get a new CRT, and I tried to get the Mister working on it because it's I want to go through the coaxial cable because I want to kind of recreate some stuff from when I was a kid because I'm old, and that was a journey. I'm like I bought some stuff and nothing quite got it working right. So yeah, that my week was like just you know what though. I was happy while doing it. It never ended up working great, but I still had a good time just setting it up. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm at that point where just setting things up is making me just as happy as playing games these days. So there's that.
I get it. I'm tempted to every year at some point. I'm like, gotta reconfigure my whole desk setup.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
totally.
Cabling everything because it will not shock you to know that my cables are pretty decently managed.
You can come over here and help me with mine. Yeah, I'm like trying to resist that urge. I had my desk kind of over here before, and it was facing this wall, and now I'm like, I think I probably want that again, and I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm gonna move all this stuff over. But
I know.
Now I have to
turn mine around.
Since the last time I did that, I've like kind of settled this room in a much more permanent way, and now that's like, I'd have to rethink everything.
Everything,
but
yes,
might still happen. We'll see. Maybe I'll justify that with like a fall cleaning or something like that. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Digital Foundry and others dig details out of Sony's PS5 Pro footage. This is basically excerpts from their podcast that they did. This got shared around pretty widely on Twitter, and it's caused some more people to like scratch their heads, some more people to go, "Hey, what's going on here?" We'll get into the details. Mostly, though, it is continuing the conversation that people are having that stem from the obvious diminishing returns from having more power on a console that's already pretty powerful and is already outputting games just about as good as they can look, with a few limitations here and there, and most limitations being budget and time. For example, Last of Us Part 2 is running at a 1440p internal resolution at 60 frames per second in the PS5 Pro mode, as shown in the trailer, which is what I think Digital Foundry was analyzing. That is the same as the PS5 performance mode. Now, in terms of like the numbers, the 1440p internal resolution and 60 frames per second. Now, they're saying that it likely will have improved image quality thanks to PSSR, PISR. So they'll be able to turn on more features and get the same resolution and the same frame rate. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was between 1440p and 1800p internal resolution, which is like what the 40 frames per second quality mode on PS5 did. Now they're going to be able to get that to 60 frames per second, so a little bit of a jump there. Alan Wake 2 had two modes, an 864p at 60 frames per second and 1260p at 30 frames per second. These are also the same as the base PS5 mode. This is one that really kind of got a lot of people to like, oh my God, it's still 864p on PS5. I mean, the idea I think would be that with PSSR, that can look even better than ever. And I don't remember a lot of people complaining about the the look and feel and the quality of Alan Wake 2 on PS5 up to this point. So yeah, there's a lot more of this. Horizon Forbidden West, they said didn't look 4K to them, but they also think that PSSR was not turned on in the footage they were seeing, but it was hard to tell. I think what this really gets at, Emma, is like this stuff, the difference because of the diminishing returns is harder to show off than ever. And I think that once like Digital Foundry actually gets a PS5 Pro in front of them, and there's a lot of other people who are capable of doing this kind of work, but they're the go-to for a reason. Once they get their hands on the actual console, they are going to be able to show these differences off in their best possible light. But even then, that is going to require a lot of zooming in on very specific details.
Yes, it is.
And so what we're left with is a marketing push that feels lackluster, right?
So exactly. I mean, this is something that we deal with in like film and television as well, and particularly in things that are being filmed for the internet, where by and large, the best quality that you are actually going to be able to get it in is 1080p.
Yeah.
Or especially for like on-site video. A lot of on-site video maxes out at 720.
Yep.
So the reason whenever you're making internet video that you would shoot in 4K is if you want to do a punch in so it'll still look crisp in detail when you punch in. Now, in a video game, this is really going to depend, being able to show off these features, on how much control you have over the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's very difficult to show off how exactly this is better, because we are getting beyond like what the human eye can naturally detect.
Yeah. And as people pointed out, like a Digital Foundry was able to get the ProRes like original footage from Sony. They was like, hey, they were working with Sony to get their hands on some stuff. People originally took that as they were getting a PS5 Pro. That doesn't seem to have happened yet. Maybe it's happened, but we don't know about it yet. But they got ProRes footage, which is like high quality. Well, you can have varying quality.
Yeah, I know. We shoot ProRes all the time.
Right. Yeah. Explaining for audio listeners that there's varying qualities of ProRes, but I'm sure they're getting the highest quality ProRes. And I think that with that, they're able to actually get as close to the details as possible. Still, though, that's the encoding and stuff. The process by which that stuff gets encoded in the first place is probably not the same that Digital Foundry would use to really get the details out of there. But that's why even with Horizon Forbidden West, they're like, this is still hard to tell.
Yeah.
I think what we're going to see here is probably some of these things actually get cleaned up still a little bit, and more improvements come once this thing is actually out in the wild. These are the earliest pro modes for a variety of titles, and one on the PlayStation first party side, a bunch of games that were already taking such advantage of the hardware that they already looked so good. And then on the third party side, with stuff like Alan Wake 2, limited ability to dedicate resources to getting the most out of one SKU of one system that isn't even out yet. So I think, you know, if PS5 Pro's there and these people are like, oh, actually, you know what, it's A64p right now because that's what we have, and we'll turn on more features, and that was the easiest thing we can do. I bet that stuff actually looks a little bit better, you know, 6 months, a year from now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, it's just I remember saying this when the most recent generation of consoles launched, the PS5, the Xbox Series X, and all the upgraded, you know, NVIDIA graphics cards, and I was saying, I don't think I can see any.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's one of the, and like, again, the load times on the PS5 are already phenomenal. It's just, it is hard to get better than we already have.
Yeah, especially with a mid-gen refresh using the same CPU. You know, and you know, for as much as like I'm right with everyone being like that's a high price for not that much money more, all things considered.
Which, by the way, I called. I nailed it.
Yes, I was going to get to that. I'm going to get to that.
I didn't back away from my 700.
That was right on the money, and I was right there like, I think you might be right, but I'm going to go with 650 because I'm scared. And nope, they're not scared. They're like, yeah, Emma knows what she's talking about.
Exactly. They changed their minds. They were going to sell it for 650, but then they watched the show.
Okay, there we go. We found her, everybody.
Everybody, I'm the reason the PS5 Pro is $700.
Some other details from this Hogwarts Legacy footage. I thought that game only ran at 30 frames per second on PS5. Apparently there is a 60 frames per second mode, but they showed the 30 frames per second mode in this footage. There probably almost certainly will be obviously still a 60 frames per second mode. We have no idea what the improvements will be there for that, but on the 30 frames per second mode, there is improved ray tracing. They said there's still some visual noise in the background, but it looks better than it did in the standard version. Gran Turismo 7 also has ray trace reflections that happen in the when you're driving now, and those are at quarter resolution, so 1080p, but it still looks really good. And they point out it looks better than the ray tracing in Forza, which has, you know, these driving games. It's very easy to get really high performance out of them. They were able to get some ray tracing, I think, in Forza Horizon, the Forza Motorsport, the new one.
The new one,
yeah. Gran Turismo 7 though, better ray tracing. So yeah, they're like, that's one of the features that they're promising here. That's one of the things you would want to see. Okay, can this like look better right out of the gate? It's gonna look a little bit better. Yeah. Does ray tracing move you though? We've been talking a lot about this one too, as we talked about the PS5 Pro. I don't think anybody cares, but I don't know. You tell me if I'm wrong.
Look, I don't think you are wrong. I think that it is very similar to a well-dressed set in a TV show or a film. You appreciate it, but you're not really looking at it.
Yep.
It's one of those features that you don't think about. So, yes, you would probably play a game with upgraded ray tracing and go, there's something about this that looks nice.
Yep.
But you're not actively clocking like, oh, it's better ray tracing.
Right. And it's kind of thing where then if you go in the settings to get more frame rate on a PC game, people are turning that off before anything else. And then they're turning down shadows because it's like, I just don't even care about that stuff. And it's like, well, these are things that cost the most to the performance hit. So yeah, I get why you want to turn them down. So when presented with the choice, when people actually go into the menu, they're going in there like not really being like, this is not worth what I'm losing here. The last little tidbit from this, in Digital Foundry's early opinion, looking at this footage, they are settling around DLSS, NVIDIA's upscaling AI technology, still looking the best, still performing the best, which makes sense. They've been developing it for a very long time and put a lot of money into it. PSSR is then right behind that, and then FSR is below PSSR, and that makes sense. FSR has not had, at least so far, they are promising, I think, to get to a point where they will begin using AI modeling for the upscaling, machine learning, something again, machine learning would be good at, has been good at, it's been proven by
Yes.
DLSS. And PSSR does have machine learning helping with the image reconstruction. So you can see the benefits right there. I think it'll probably always lag a little bit behind DLSS until a point where this stuff is just so ubiquitous that it's like we don't even think about the brand names anymore, right?
Yeah. And I think that that's some of what, I don't want to say confuses me, but it's just an observation that I would like to make about the PS5 Pro, which is that the people who really care about this stuff, they have PCs. You know, like that's the way that I feel about it.
I mean, I think you're right to a point. I think that's why it's like people keep using the term niche, and I'm like, I think niche usually describes like the product is solving a niche issue or something like that. So I think it's more boutique, but you know, whatever the actual terminology, whatever, who cares? I think they are looking at a smaller subset of a smaller subset of users, where it's like people that will spend money to upgrade, and then those among them who like have to have the best of the best, they're going after them. And that is probably, when all things are said and done, pretty equivalent to the number of people who bought a PS4 Pro relative to the total number of PS4s that sold, which I think we heard was around 12%. So I think 1 out of 10, 1 out of 9 people are gonna of everyone who ever buys a PS5, that's about the number they're looking to hit with this. And yeah, I think that's like not as big as the PC user base, right?
Yeah.
I think the last thing here about the FSR versus PSSR and stuff like that. I was just playing Star Wars Outlaws again on the Roger Ally, which gives you a bunch of options for image reconstruction on there. Now the Ally doesn't have NVIDIA DLSS. I think that game supports DLSS. I'm pretty sure that's right. But it does have FSR and Intel's ZSS, the XESS, which has actually looked way better than FSR in terms of like how like standard or how stable the image was. On FSR, you get a lot of noise around objects, anything moving, but FSR 2 or whatever it was that I had, like one of the later ones, because it had frame generation, which is we can create new frames, we can interpolate frames between these other frames, and for as bad as that's been on motion smoothing on TV, it's gotten pretty good in games here just recently. Yes, just recently, and it's like I kind of still just want the frame generation as opposed to the image looking better. So even when it's like, okay, PSSR is going to be better than FSR, if some games get some more frame generation options from FSR on console, I would like to. Although I wonder, maybe these things can be used in unison. I don't know. I guess there's no reason, because PSSR would just be built into the game. It's probably not even something you turn on or off.
I would suspect not. I suspect that is just baked into the PS5 Pro versions of games, basically. It's I think that some of it is that I have that like adversity to the like motion smoothing that we see on televisions, because as you say, it is good in games. But it's like, oh God, in TV, it's so like, I don't know, uncanny valley or something.
It's I mean, especially for filmed footage that we're so used to looking one way, and then you want to add the soap opera filter on top of that. Never looks good.
No, nothing looks good.
This thing, I think pre-orders start here pretty soon, right? The end of the month, I think, is when they actually go up for pre-order. $700. It launches November 7th, I want to say. I'm kind of going from memory here on a lot of this stuff. I think this thing probably does just fine, and has an initial like splash where it probably does sell out and is difficult to get. But yeah, I don't know. Do you think this like changes the calculus for this generation in any real way?
No, I think that it's, as you say, like this is a niche market, and I think that at that price point, Sony has to know that. They have to know that they are very specifically marketing to the tech junkie that wants all the upgrades. Because they are very subtle. I have no interest in getting a PS5 Pro, and I'm a I am a ride or die PlayStation girl.
You loved Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? People were complaining about that being a little blurry, a little soft. Did you notice it?
No, I played in graphics mode.
Okay.
Because
Well, there you go. Yeah.
I don't mind. I like 30 FPS. I think for me, it's like, because I control the camera as if I were shooting a show or a movie, you know, like it's just changing the way that your brain thinks. And I grew up playing games that ran in 30 FPS. So it's like not hard for me to do that. And it was like, you know, I remember the final like media preview going to that, and they were like, hey, make sure that you put this in graphics mode. And I was like, yeah, this looks great. I don't know what people are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think they said like 1 out of 4 people do still just use the graphics mode, and and I think that for a lot of games, when they have the lock 30 frames per second, it does actually look fine. Like most people are not going to think of the difference until they see it side by side, and that's
totally
really I still notice, but it's like just because I'm now at this point I'll play on PC for so many years in a row. I always play at 60 frames per second or higher. So but yeah, that's not most people. Well, I guess according to PlayStation, most people still choose performance, though. I wonder how many of those would think about it if they weren't given the option.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, PS5 Pro still kind of dominating the conversation. It has since they announced it. I think at the very least that shows, and like that's it's obviously that's what's happening on this show, but it's happening everywhere. I think that demonstrates that for as high as the price is, and for as much as the conversation is around who needs this and how are these improvements noticeable, people want to be excited about new hardware. They are looking for reasons to care about this thing, and I think while Sony does seem to be dropping the ball a little bit about giving them an obvious thing to like hang their hat on, I think it's a good sign for them and for anyone that's going to be making a console that people want to be excited about it, whether or not they really have one. So
yeah,
we'll see. That probably means good things for PS6 down the line, and we'll talk about actually that here in a second. All right. On the Nintendo side of things, two new Nintendo Switch hardware bundles announced for the US, and this one is like such a switcheroo. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Nintendo of America has announced 2 new Switch hardware bundles priced at $300. The Nintendo Switch Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundles are back again. Include a
still riding Mario Kart 8.
Mario Kart 8 still. It includes a standard Switch system with a red and blue Joy-Con controllers, a download code for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and a 12-month Nintendo Switch Online membership. Now, to be fair, the bundle's I think different because in the past I think you paid $350 because it came with the game, but you got $10 off. So they are like technically. I guess not technically, but they are effectively lowering the price. This is basically a price cut for as far as I can remember. Maybe this was the pricing last year. I don't know. Then there's the also the Nintendo Switch OLED Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundle, which comes with the OLED Switch with the white Joy-Con controllers, a digital copy of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and 12 months of the Switch Online subscription for $350. Now, I said switcheroo because in Australia, they just announced like a Super Mario Brothers Wonder a bundle and things like that. So it's like other territories starting to get some of these other games put into the bundle. And who knows? Nintendo could still do that here for this holiday. It doesn't seem like it, though. It seems like they're just once again going with Mario Kart, which is wild. Because that game, 65 million copies? God, that's number that's coming to mind. That feels too high, but I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that's right. And honestly, it's so fun. And, you know,
it's great. It's one of the best races ever made.
I saw somebody in chat and they're like, there's a 90% chance you're going to want to play Mario Kart 8 anyway.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah.
I think what that says, though, is like, who is Nintendo still going after with these bundles? I think it's families that still, for some reason, don't have a Switch.
Absolutely. Because you have to think of it this way. So what year did the Switch launch?
2017.
17? Yeah. Okay. So 2017. Okay. So think of children who were born in 2017 who are now 7 years old.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
They are now an age to start playing Nintendo Switch. I mean, truly, like, case and point, last Christmas, my nephews got a Nintendo Switch.
Yep. And it's not like there's like easy game sharing for digital copies. Like obviously physical, you can borrow stuff.
Yeah.
But really, people get their own Switch and it's like they're going to need their own copy of Mario Kart. And now everyone can play together and they can play it on their own. But it's like, it fits with like the model they're going for of there will be homes with 2, 3, 4 Switches. And each of those people will have their own copy of Mario Kart, which seems to be how it went down.
Yeah, truly. I mean, you just look at, but again, it's like, you know, just statistically speaking, it's like you're still like, and I will be very clear that one of the games that they got was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Mm-hmm.
So you're now marketing this game to children who were born after the game came out. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that wild?
Yeah, and that's the strategy here is like to always set up a new crop of young kids to become Nintendo fans. And
absolutely. And when you're selling it at an extremely affordable price point, like it's you know, smart marketing, Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean it looks more like $300 for the Switch standard. It has been the price, but now you're including a game, and it looks more affordable than ever as everything else has gone up in price. It's like we say, hey, these things aren't getting price cuts, but there is like an argument to be made. It's not a great one, everybody, but sit down for it. That if something stays the same price while everything else is going up in price, that feels kind of like a price cut, especially for people who have not bought one yet and are looking around and seeing a $700 PS5 Pro. And again, that's in a completely different league to the Switch, but that's when people are just looking at prices, they're not thinking that deep about these things. They just want to like feel like they're getting an okay deal. I think that helps.
Absolutely. And I mean, and Gorgar in chat points out it's not a new angle. My first console was the NES, and that came out 3 years before I was born. Now, at the time, it was that Nintendo was not that they were the only name in the game, but they were certainly the front runners in the game. Yeah. Whereas now, like Nintendo they've basically for forever been not resting on their laurels, but leaning into the fact that they were the like forefather of the home console generation. And because of that, they have all of these established legacy titles, and they have this established history of being the family gaming console. You know, it was truly, you know, the family computer, so to speak, you know, so you know, now it's become their business model. Yep.
And Dark Aileron points out, like, most people see $300 and they think I need to feed myself and pay rent. Yeah, of course. You're not at Target shopping for consoles then.
Yeah,
that was like,
exactly.
That was like the default, like the baseline for the whole conversation there. It's like, you're considering getting something fun from your entertainment budget for your family. And you're still price sensitive though, even if you are in that situation. That's all we're talking about here. But yeah, like the people are, I think, wanting to feel like they're getting a deal when they're spending anything, and they have not felt that way shopping for anything for a very long time now. And we do hear like, like good deals are coming back to McDonald's. They keep saying they're going to keep not cutting prices, but introducing specials that like make people feel like, I'm getting a lot more than I used to get for $10 again. And by just saying you're getting a game for $300 included in this thing, people will feel like that's a little bit better than it's been for the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for a deal, just go to Taco Bell.
Yeah,
it's hard to spend more than $5 for an individual human at Taco Bell.
Yeah, you just get like 4 or 5 soft tacos. You're good to go.
Exactly.
Crush those things. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, PlayStation is kind of talking about the future beyond PS5 Pro right after this. All right, let's get into it. PlayStation's co-CEO insists consoles will remain the core of its business, which I didn't think was a question, but hey, let's get into it anyhow. From Andy Robinson at VGC, PlayStation's co-CEO has said that the console will remain the core of its business. Sony Interactive Entertainment has recently made expanding to PC and mobile devices a priority for its business, though console users continue to receive the majority of its releases well in advance of other platforms. In a new interview, Hideaki Nishino, head of Sony Interactive Entertainment's platform business group, was asked by Japanese publication Nikkei if he could summarize the value of consoles. I think with mobile devices, there are many games that show advertisements, and PCs are difficult to set up. But with PlayStation, once you turn it on, you can experience the content you bought straight away, he replied. The store where you purchase software also offers an intuitive experience because the products are laid out in an easy-to-understand manner. He added, we are trying to increase our share of the overall game market by developing content for PCs as well. There's no doubt that consoles will be at the core of our business, but by offering titles for platforms other than consoles, we will reach a wider range of customers. All right. I think all that's true, and I think it's hard to argue with, but I do think that there is something where it's like the dam is broke. The seal has been lifted when you start saying the reason to get a PlayStation is not, here's the only place you can play this very important game, which has been the argument from the beginning.
Has been yeah, exactly. Like it has been the core of why to buy PlayStation.
Right. And like for all these consoles for a very long time, that's been what has made the console world go round. And now they're saying it's easier than a PC. And that feels less magical, right? Which, okay, how much do I care about the magic? I want to play the games, me personally. I'm not too worried about all this. But it does seem like them saying, like, this feels like the beginning of the end of consoles, whether that's 10 years or 25 years. I don't know. But it's like, I think we come back to this point where it's like, all the games are going to be everywhere eventually, not too long, actually. But in the meantime, if you don't like setting up a PC, here's a box to use instead. Less magical, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's less intimidating than a PC.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that the argument. I just don't think that's like the sort of thing where it's like people feel great about spending a lot of money on something because it's easier. They feel they like spending a lot of money on something because it makes them feel special. Sure. And saying this is kind of the easy version doesn't make. I don't think that makes people feel special.
I don't think it makes people feel special, but I do think that it does appeal to a consumer because you are asking somebody to just, hey, here's a box that you buy and it's ready to go and you hook it up to your TV and you can play games. Whereas, I think people can get intimidated by the PC and getting bogged down by all its components. Do I think that a PC is a better long-term investment? Absolutely. However, and we also have to consider the fact that like the US is a huge PC market. In Japan, PCs are becoming more prevalent.
It's growing,
It's growing, but it's always been a console market. This kind of goes back to...
Now it's a mobile phone market, but totally.
Yeah, well, that's a mobile phone market. That's very true. But this goes all the way back to like the Dreamcast and the advent of online play with games like Phantasy Star Online, which kind of popularized online gaming at all in Japan because it was such a console heavy market. It's something that we're gonna like continue to see thrive. And I mean, I've primarily been a console gamer for a very, very long time. I do have a PC now. But yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think, literally as I'm saying this, Rock H Strongo in chat says, I haven't upgraded my PC in forever because most games I play just aren't that demanding.
Yeah,
and most of the games that I play, like I have a PC to play indie games. And most of them aren't that demanding. So yeah.
I think that this is them kind of being like, look, we have a certain level of momentum. A lot of people in chat pointed out, and this is true. I mean, Phil Spencer himself has pointed this out, that a lot of people have a huge investment in the PlayStation ecosystem already. They are not going to abandon that almost no matter what. Like there's almost nothing that can get them to abandon that investment. It is both financial and nostalgic at a certain point where when they look at all these things they've owned, they think of all the money they spent, they think of all the memories they made. They're not going to suddenly switch platforms. And at least most of them are not. And I think Sony's like, okay, well, we have that momentum, and then we just have the momentum of people that, like you said, hey, I've been playing games on consoles my entire life. Look, kid. And
Yeah,
that's the way.
he was yelling. So
Oh yeah, and that's the way I want to continue playing games. So what are my options? And most people now at this point seem like they're going to pick PlayStation by default, and had been for a minute now, but especially now. So I think Sony's like, okay, yeah, and now we need growth. So where's that growth going to come from? Well, it's kind of difficult to get a new generation onto consoles these days, especially when like Nintendo is kind of scooping up that whole audience.
Yes, they are.
So we're left with no other choice but to support the PC more. Now, PS6 is coming. Like they're not going to not make a PS6, right?
Yeah, of course there's going to be a PS6. Yeah, but it is. I mean, it's interesting, and obviously, like Sony in of itself is this huge multimedia ecosystem. So like games has always been a part of their market. Now, again, circling back to the advent of the Sony PlayStation, one of the things that made it so successful was the fact that they immediately were working with third-party developers and they made their dev kits super accessible. So this is where we get into this weird area of them needing to also focus on the PC market, because it's like you have these games like your Final Fantasies, which have previously been timed PlayStation exclusives. And now they're moving to the PC market faster than ever. And that's because like Square Enix, that's a third party developer, you know? So it's like, that is a company that in of itself needs to make money.
Right.
So if they want to continue to have this great relationship with some of these third-party devs that are making these huge titles that previously have been a big draw for being a PlayStation owner, you know, they have to, in order to continue these relationships, accept the prevalence of the PC market and these people who have invested all of this money into building out their PCs going, well, I'm not going to get a PlayStation because I've put so much money into this PC. I'm going to wait until this is available on the PC.
Right.
And so Sony is, again, I think smartly expanding into investing earlier into that PC market.
Yeah, I think that they sort of have no other real obvious options. So this has led them to be like, let's look more at PC. And it just, the reality is it's not hurting them too much. And then like the Square Enix deals aren't like turning the key so hard for them where it's like, this is, if we keep doing stuff like this, that's going to be the thing that actually causes us to grow, because people just won't be able to ignore these games for as big as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or any of these things are. And once these games get locked down to one console, especially from third parties, it actually seems to diminish the game instead of raising the platform. Maybe it raises the platform a little bit, but it does feel like in recent history, that's felt more like it has diminished the games. And that is, I think Sony's still going to keep money having games and going out there making deals. And I think that's probably a good thing for them to make their console feel important. But it's, I think it's been less effective. And so, they have to grow on PC.
Yeah. And it's like, I also want to take a look at like Xbox's model with the Xbox Game Pass and how like a lot of the time what it is it's not that this game is only coming out for Xbox. However, it is going to be an Xbox Game Pass day one release. So that makes me inclined to play Persona 3 Reload on my Xbox rather than buying it for my PlayStation, even though I prefer PlayStation to Xbox.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's their hope was that argument would win over even more people, and I think it won over quite a few people. But it's I think what both Sony and Microsoft realized at the same time, and to different degrees of problems for them, is that the audience they were fighting over that would be like won over by Game Pass or would be won over by an exclusive Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a really finite audience that they can see in front of them, and they're like, okay, who is now like funneling into these audiences because of all this exciting stuff we're doing? And the answer is, for all intents and purposes, no one. They just aren't. And so, they have to look for other areas for it to grow.
Though we are overlooking the main reason to own a PS5, which is Astrobot.
That's right. Yes. Listen, go get a PS5 for that game right now. you kidding me? Holy smokes. Sony has contracted AMD for PlayStation 6, reports claim. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC as well. Shouts to VGC for all the good work. Sony has contracted AMD to design and fabricate the PlayStation 6 chip due to the company's prioritization of backwards compatibility, it's claimed. According to Reuters sources, AMD landed the contract through a competitive bidding process, which took place during 2022 that eliminated others such as Broadcom and Intel. AMD has also created the custom system on a chip for PlayStation 5 and the forthcoming PS5 Pro. I think they also did PS4. And according to Reuters, this was a crucial point in Sony's decision for PlayStation 6, and that it's basically a PC in there, and it's going to be essentially the same architecture, and things are just going to work. So all those games that we talked about, how people are invested in the ecosystem, well, they don't want to give that up on the Sony side of things either. So AMD was kind of the only best obvious choice. Also, AMD almost certainly came in well under whatever Intel was going to try to charge. And Intel has gotten into the GPU space. They could have made an APU for this thing, but AMD's got so much more experience. It's just clearly the safe bet here. But I think that means another generation where we get a PS6, and it's a lot like the PS5, which was a lot like the PS4. And I don't know what other options Sony would have there. Like, how do you like freshen things up? Maybe I think most people don't want them to. I don't really want them to.
No,
but it does start to feel a little stale, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's been a lot of the conversation of today is the like, well, it's more of the same but better.
Yes.
But the better is hard to detect.
Right. It's harder to produce, and then it's even harder to notice and detect. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think that still though, at a certain point, people get excited about new PlayStations. I think since the PS4 was just like, hey, this is a gaming console.
Yep.
It's going to play the games you want them to play the way you want them to play. And I think people are just like, yeah, I want to be excited for that. So I am going to be paying attention and trying to listen to any little tidbit that makes me feel good about it. And I think we're seeing it with the PS5 Pro right now. And it'll be a lot easier for them to make that argument with the PS6, I think, because that probably will be a significant leap once they get a new CPU in there and do some fun stuff. And there's always a chance that because by then this like ray tracing hardware that's going to be in the PS5 Pro will be much more mature from AMD at that point.
Exactly.
Things probably can look even better, and we might be in a world where it's like every game on PS6 is using ray tracing and global illumination, and we don't have rasterized lighting anymore. So it's like we're gonna have a lot of games that can like look and feel different. It's possible.
Yeah. We're all gonna have to play PS6 on an IMAX screen,
right?
In order to like truly experience what its capabilities are.
Yeah, I do wonder if there will be like new display technology, because we talked about this on a recent episode where it's like, hey, the PS4 Pro was clearly the 4K thing, and then these systems, when they launched, were actually HDMI 2.1. A lot of people made a big deal about that. Now it was a much smaller audience than cared about 4K, but HDMI 2.1 was still a pretty big deal for people earlier in this generation. That stuff is settled into place now, and there's just nothing really on the horizon that feels like it's going to move those needles, other than more bandwidth, so we can get 8K at 120 frames per second, which just is not going to be noticeable on anything less than an IMAX screen, as you said. All right, keep going here. Original Flappy Bird creator isn't a fan of the new game. This is from Alex Hopley at Game Reactor. Yesterday, we reported on the return of Flappy Bird. The 2013 game took the world by storm when it first launched, only to be taken down months later due to death threats being sent to the original creator, Dong Nguyen. Now, with Flappy Bird coming back, all eyes are on Nguyen once more, and he has some choice words about the upcoming app. Speaking over on Twitter, Nguyen said the following: "No, I have no effectively relation with their game. I did not sell anything. I also don't support crypto." Which apparently the people who made this game very much do. This story says the copyright to Flappy Bird was bought by GameTech Holdings LLC. If Dong Nguyen didn't sell anything, that's just no way that's true. And I don't think that's the case here. What people are saying is that maybe a trademark expired And a trademark is different than copyright. Copyright is just, I've said this before, just this rock solid thing that you just can't mess with.
Yeah.
Like there's just no, like someone can sell their copyright to something that happens all the time in music and stuff. But
yes,
if that did not happen here, so trademark, but that would mean that someone making something.
Copyright doesn't lapse until a long time.
Right. And you don't have to do anything to update it or anything like that. It just is completely rock solid. So anything called like Flappy Bird. So yeah, the trademark which is meant to protect consumers. All right, there's no issue there, whatever, I guess. But the copyright, he still owns the copyright to the words Flappy Bird for a video game. This would still be copyright infringement on that front, I would assume.
I would assume so as well. I mean, unless there's any way that they can spin this as being parody, but then in which case it shouldn't be called Flappy Bird.
Right, yes. And it's, right. And then, but then they're like, maybe that is where they could argue the trademark actually helps them. I don't know.
I don't know.
Either way, though. This is so stupid and sucks, and it's the worst habits of the people who produce video games as products, especially on the mobile side of things. It's just, we can mine some mind share out of this thing. Put a bunch of transactions in it, put a bunch of NFT stuff in there, and make some money. And it's it's gross. Yeah, it sucks. I
hate it.
I feel bad for Dong Nguyen, who's just like, who shut that thing down because it was ruining his life, he said at the time. And
I think it was ruining a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, well, I love Flappy Bird. Flappy Bird is just a pure video game. This Game Tech Holdings can go to hell. I don't need your Web3 bullshit in Flappy Bird. That's crazy. Get out of here with that.
I don't even fully understand Web3 and NFTs and crypto
and all
that
all
BS.
Fugazi. It's all just a scam. Yeah.
I mean, money barely exists. You know what I mean? Like money is a concept.
Yeah, the law against murder is just some words people said. That's not real. It's all fake all the way down. There's no such thing as the United States of America. It's just an idea we had. All right. Palworld won't switch over to the live service model. This is from Blair Marnell at GameSpot. Palworld has been one of the big gaming success stories over 2024, but fans of the game were upset by a recently published interview which suggested that developer Pocket Pair was considering a switch to the live service model. However, Pocket Pair quickly released a follow-up statement which denied that change while hinting at the possibility of adding microtransactions to the game at a later time. Pocket Pair's official Twitter account for Palworld dropped a lengthy message which assured fans that the interview in question was conducted months earlier. While discussions remain ongoing, the statement assured fans that the free-to-play games-as-a-service approach is not suitable for us. Palworld was never designed with that model in mind, and it would require too much work to adapt that game at this point. For this game at this point, I guess they're trying to say. Additionally, we are very aware that this just isn't what our players want, and we always put our players first. This is a game I haven't thought about too much since we played it earlier in the year. But I'm sure it still has a lot of people playing it, not as much as was playing it when it launched, but that's just how things go. I don't know. I would imagine that it's probably still pretty appealing to them to have free to play and kind of turn it into this big live service thing and trying to attract whales and adding the microtransactions for that. But that also would require a lot more frequent updates likely, and that would be very challenging. So I get that would be a lot. That's probably what they mean here. And then I think they're right that the audience wants just regular big content patches that come out once or twice a year. And then if there are microtransactions to the side of that, no one's asking for that, but I'm sure they can get away with that and be just fine. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, microtransactions that get a new gun for your Pokemon, and a new outfit like that. To me, microtransactions like that are harmless. It's when you're in the world of pay to win microtransactions, but is there really any winning in Palworld? You know what I mean? Palworld is just kind of like enjoy the world.
Right. Get the highest level of all the crafting stuff. And
exactly.
There's probably a final boss. I don't know. But there's definitely, and honestly, there also might be in-game competitive play like there is in Pokemon. Again,
sure.
I wasn't paying attention to that stuff. But for most people, you're right. This is going there, have fun with your friends, hang out for dozens of hours, and then if there's an expansion that comes, I almost similar to Ark Survival Evolved, which this game shares some DNA with.
Absolutely.
It's all right, now here's a new locale with new Pocket Pals, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Nintendo announces the end of regular updates for Splatoon 3. This is also from Andy Robinson at VGC. Nintendo has announced it will end regular updates for Splatoon 3 2 years after the game launched for Nintendo Switch. The news was shared after this week's special Grand Festival event. Nintendo has regularly updated Splatoon 3 with new weapons, Splatfest, and features since its launch on September 9th, 2022. Support for the game's predecessor, Splatoon 2, also lasted for around 2 years, with its final significant update arriving in July 2019. After 2 incredible years of Splatoon 3, regular updates will come to a close, reads a message on the official Splatoon X or Twitter account. Don't worry, Splatoon, Frosty Fest, Spring Fest, and Summer Nights will continue with some returning themes. Updates for weapons adjustments will be released as needed. Big Run, extra work, and monthly challenges will continue for the time being. So it's just like no new big features, no new big updates that we haven't seen before. This sounds about right. To support the game for 2 years. Don't force it to have to continue to succeeding on its own terms many years later. Just get to work on Splatoon 4, right? Are you a big Splatoon person? I really enjoy those games, but I'm like, at this point, I don't know what I'm looking for from a Splatoon 4.
Yeah, I played the first one a little bit when it first came out, but I haven't really stuck with Splatoon. But it does make me happy to see that, it has been extremely successful.
Oh, it's extremely successful, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think Splatoon 4 and looking to the future of a Switch 2 and, putting their resources into developing that, because that's certainly going to be a thing. This game is far too successful for them to not make a successor for the console's successor.
Yeah, I mean, I think this sets them up to have a Splatoon 4 ready to go for Switch 2 in the first couple of years of that system.
Totally.
Yeah, that's probably right. I guess there's also even the chance of a Splatoon 3 Deluxe that could launch in the first year of the Switch 2. You're right, though. This thing is a massive success, especially in Japan, but worldwide. It's in the it's over 10 million copies sold. I think it might be close to 20 million copies sold. They want to build on that, so yeah, they'll find some way to do that with the Switch 2. Wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what they're working on right now.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, 12,000 fake Nintendo and Sega consoles to be destroyed in major retro gaming bust. This is from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. An alleged vintage gaming trafficking ring was recently busted up in Italy. Authorities say 12,000 counterfeit copies of the Atari 2600, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis, collectively housing millions of pirated games, have been seized and will be destroyed. Now, 12,000 fewer people will be subjected to running Super Mario Brothers on an emulator. Imagine the horror. Yeah, this is there's markets out there, and I see these things, which it's always weird because it's you could just make a system that is can play all these games.
Totally.
Just don't make it a counterfeit Super Nintendo. Just make it anything else, and it can have all these games.
Exactly. Don't sell it saying this is a Super Nintendo,
and you'll be
sell
fine.
It being like, yeah, exactly. Sell it being like, this is the thing. It looks like a Super Nintendo, but it just runs simulations of these games. That's fine. Those exist.
And then they do fine, and you're not supposed to include ROMs on those things, but a lot of companies do, and Nintendo doesn't really go after them, at least so far. That could change any second, obviously. But then you just have to sell it without the ROMs included, and that's also completely viable. People can just get their own ROMs, which is still possible regardless of all the stuff Nintendo's done to try to shut that stuff down online.
I mean, to me though, I'm like, just remarket these things. Don't destroy them. That's so wasteful.
That's what happens with counterfeit things, right? That we always hear about counterfeit Coach bags being rounded up and destroyed and things like that. So this is about protecting the property rights, intellectual property rights, whatever, the product rights of these companies, and they take that stuff very seriously for some reason.
Yeah.
Right. I agree with Ethan, who's like, oh, the horror if someone ended up with one of these things. It's the games would be just fine. You'd be fine. But they want to ensure the sanctity of their marketplace. And so going after this stuff makes sense from a certain point of view.
Well.
All right. Let's see here. I'll get to the poll question in a second. Let me bring that up while I'm doing that, Emma, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So you can find me at my name, Emma Fyffe, on Twitter that I don't use, and on Instagram, and in the Giant Bomb Discord, and then on TikTok, which I mostly am just a lurker on. I'm the Emma Fyffe, because I don't know, somebody took my name. So weird. I know. And then I got I'm working on a lot of stuff right now that I can't talk about. But hopefully you will all know very soon, and it's very cool and exciting stuff. So, and then the Kickstarter for the upcoming Boss Fight book season is coming to a close tomorrow. So if you go to Kickstarter for Boss Fight books, you can help support
and you
wonderful creators. You should. The 4 books announced for this season are EverQuest, which a bunch of people guessed, Outer Wilds, Untitled Goose Game, and Dance Dance Revolution, which fun. I don't know if any of y'all were DDR kids. I sure DDR, yeah. Was.
Yeah. I didn't play it very much in the arcade, but I got a copy
I played it at home.
Yeah, I got the PlayStation.
We had home dance mats. Oh, yeah.
I got it for the PlayStation and then a version for the Xbox 360. And now that's the mat I still have it plugged into USB on the PC over here to play with the Stepmania, or whatever it's called. Excellent. Yeah, people should go there. Boss Fight books, just search for it. You'll get the Kickstarter.
Yeah, you'll find it.
All right. The poll question from last week. How much do you think the PS6 will launch for? 5% say $500. 22% say $600. 30% say $700. And 43% say $800 or more. I did the same one on Twitter. And I started at 600, then 700, 800, and then 900 plus. And 900 plus actually had by far the most on that poll. So people are thinking higher rather than like in line, even with the $700 for this system. I think they will probably have a model on the shelves that starts at $700. I think they'll find a way to do that. But most people will end up buying the version that gets you actually closer to spending $900. I bet is how it'll go down. What do you think? You called it right last time.
I did call it right last time. So yes, I do think that again there will be a version of it that is around that $700 mark.
Yes, 700 because I think, yes.
Right, because here's what's going to happen. They are marketing to the people that were like, well, I'm not going to spend $700 on a PS5 Pro. But then you have a version of the PS6 that launches at $700, and you're like, oh dang.
Yeah.
Now I feel justified in spending that $700. Yes. Yeah.
Right. You're like, I'm so smart for waiting. All those suckers that got the PS5 Pro, and I'm going to get a PS6 for the same price.
Absolutely.
I'm so smart.
Yep. This version will not have a disk drive. I don't even know if consoles are going to have disk drives in the future.
PS6 will sell. Well, they will have a separate disk drive. It will not come with the system. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I mean, and then there will, and the $700 version is the one that most people are going to buy, and it's going to be the one that's impossible to get. And so then you're going to end up being like me. I didn't care about having a disk drive on my PS5, but I have one because that was the one I could get.
Yep. Yeah. Right. I think a lot of people will end up, they'll get laddered up just like they do with the large popcorn at the movie theater and with the iPads, where it's like, well, I want more storage, but now I'm spending that much money. If I just spend a little bit more, I'll get this one that has all these other features. They'll have ways to get people to spend, like I said, close to $900 when it's all said and done, but they will still be thinking I got the $700 version or whatever. All right. Yep. We'll see. That's several years away. Who knows? Maybe things will change.
Yes,
Probably won't even have currency, and it'll be, we'll be in the water wars for a long time at that point. Okay, let's see. New poll question: did you ever play the original Flappy Bird? Yes or no? Kind of curious just to see what this audience has to say. If you can't tell the difference, you're like, I think this is the original Flappy Bird, you could just say yes. Who knows? There were a lot of clones out there. All right, we'll get the results of that on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb on Wednesday. Speaking of Giant Bomb, I think later today it will be Space Marine Monday. We're gonna play some more Space Marine 2. That should work out. I don't have anything else that should take me away, so we should be able to make that happen. Me, Jan, and Dan will get back into our save that we did of Space Marine 2. It was a really good time on Friday. We're going to continue that. Yeah, Space Marine. And then later this week, obviously, Bombcast tomorrow. Wednesday, Light Club should be back. There's no reason it shouldn't be. Thursday, of course, Voicemail Dump Truck. I think there's a new Jeffs this week or coming up sometime soon. Friday, we'll do something. We'll get some stuff going. I want to do a catch-up stream. Me and Jen keep talking about that. We got to make that happen. We'll find some time to do that. Maybe that can just be UPF this week, but we'll see.
Catch-up stream. So you're going to be sampling different types of ketchup.
That's right. The spicy ketchup from Whataburger. That's right. It was very good. Yeah. All right, Emma Fyffe, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.